Prior to European colonization of Canada, Aboriginal women had primary roles in families, governments, and religious ceremonies. Women were given full authority throughout their household. They were called the life givers and the caretakers of life. For that reason, early childhood socialization was the duty of women who were responsible for child care. Depending on the type of society, there were slight differences in the way the family was structured. In traditional Aboriginal society, both men and women would have similar roles. The family was taught to help, care, love, and respect each other. On the other side, a matriarchal society was broken down in a way where women were seen as virtuous and noble. Men also respected them for their honor by spoiling them with gifts. It was believed that God had given them these gifts. Moreover, many historical documents that were passed by oral methods show the fair, equity, and social justice that they followed. One prominent example is how both men and women received equal rights under law. This was practiced from generation to generation and throughout the land. Furthermore, in many stories, women were seen as a main character. In the Absh and Creek legends, it is believed that a woman was sent from the skies to sustain and preserve Earth. Folktales tell of a woman named the grandmother of Nokomis who explained to men how Earth originated. She also taught men how to advance in society through means of developments in technology, medicine, and architecture. This created impressive innovations in many societal fields. Last, in the Abshwe culture and religion, women are seen as Mother Earth. That is why, during one of their prayers, they face a pipe towards 4 directions, one of them being Mother Earth. However, following the colonization of Aboriginal land in Canada, European values and culture was introduced. Men became dominant and women became inferior. These ideas were strange in Aboriginal societies. However, as time progressed, white settlers brainwashed Aboriginals and it became the norm. Women's rights began to decrease because of European cultural practices of a male superior world. A great example would be the law of England. Women did not have the right to vote, own property, or enter into a contract. This law was later transformed into the Indian Act, a law that openly discriminates against women. Men were seen as the protectors of women, and women only obtained rights through their male family members. As time passed by, the number of raped, murdered, and missing women increased. A direct result was the increase in female oppression. Next, the introduction of residential schooling started victimizing Aboriginal women into abuse. Forcefully, young children were taken from their families to these schools that were government funded. According to J.R. Miller from the Canadian Encyclopedia, an estimate of 150 children attended these schools and an estimate of 6,000 children died during these schools. Similarly, the dark history of these schools show that children were mistreated and brainwashed into thinking European culture is civil while their Aboriginal culture is barbaric. Those were a comparison of before and after during the residential schooling experience. Therefore, these schools were ruthless. Some children stayed there for 8 years, others 10, and some never returned. Overall, women and young children experienced physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. Currently, the people who experience life in residential schooling are in their elderly ages and have grandchildren. Unfortunately, in many aspects, it is difficult for those parents to teach their children authentic culture as they have forgotten most of it. Denial of their culture caused confusion towards the future generations. The justice system and Aboriginal people, Grand Chief David Sir, stated that residential schooling taught self-hate. That is child abuse. Too many of our people got the message and passed it on. It is the younger generations that appear before you. End quote. Likewise, the destruction of Aboriginal religion, culture, and belief have resulted in abusive families. Because of cruel treatment the children faced in residential schooling and actions of unfair violence towards the land, it led to violence against Aboriginals overall. The aftermath was a repeating cycle of abusive communities. During 1869, the Canadian government started a legislation that would strip away the Aboriginal protection rights. Aboriginals were then treated the same way as any regular European citizen. Nevertheless, this law included different rights for men and women. The rules were sexist, racist, and discriminatory. Aboriginal women were treated like European women and slaves. As stated before, this legislation was called the Indian Act. It was a tradition that Aboriginal women were central role of political parties and involvement. Nonetheless, after the Indian Act, they were denied the rights of joining political movements and voting. Unfortunately, segregation and unequal rights among Aboriginal community is still an issue because of European influence and dominance. Moreover, stereotypes against Aboriginal women create and cause abuse by both Aboriginal men and others. Ironically, Paul Allen, part of a family violence program, explains, "For the past 40 years or 50 years, American popular media has depicted American Indian men as bloodthirsty savages devoted to treating women cruelly." End quote. Even at a young age, the government does not focus on teaching kids the importance of Aboriginal culture and history. Rather, the colonizers' positive histories and victories are highlighted. The media is a very powerful tool that can change challenges worldwide. Hence, there's a decrease in awareness about Aboriginal issues. All in all, before European settlement, there was equity between both genders in Aboriginal communities, and Aboriginal women lived as powerful figures. However, European colonization has not only destroyed Aboriginal land, but also increased violence within communities. Aboriginal women have unfortunately suffered within these years, and many people seem to ignore these issues. If people worldwide came together to fight oppression, the world would be more peaceful.